How's everybody doing? This video is aimed at guitarists of all levels, but especially toward beginner guitarists who might be concerned about finding their style. And for everybody else who might be concerned that their own personal style isn't quite strong enough yet. Now think back to when you first started playing. What was the reason you started playing? It was probably because you heard somebody else playing and you thought, that is so good that I want to try my hand at that. And most importantly, whether you knew it or not, you enjoyed that person's style. So now we have to ask, what makes a person's unique style? First, there's technique. How much does a player practice in order to streamline their technique and in order to build their arsenal of different techniques? You have to realize that somebody who's considered to be a shredder would have to spend a significant amount of time just practicing shredding so that they can do it when they need to. And for somebody who does like hybrid picking, they have to spend a lot of time streamlining their hybrid picking technique to where they're confident enough to pull it out and use it, and it becomes something that they're known for. You get the idea. Next, and this is probably the biggest thing, is a player's vocabulary. With this I'm including all the chords, scales, progressions, and melody lines that a player decides to focus on. You have to think that there's practically an infinite number of melodic combinations that a person could make, and there's only a finite amount of time that any person has to practice. So based on what each person enjoys, they decide to spend time on. You'll notice that any player will use the same little melodies or the same progressions several times, if not repeatedly, throughout song after album and through someone's entire career. And that's not a bad thing, and I'm not saying that they're falling back on that as a lack of creativity, because that's not the case. Usually it comes down to that is a line that the player feels effectively emotes what they're trying to portray. And when you hear a line like that, you think, oh, if you didn't recognize it before, you'll recognize that's got to be this player. It just becomes super recognizable for them, kind of a trademark thing. And the other aspect of what makes a person's unique style is how much technicality they allow versus how much feel. Now, there's technicality in all forms of really good guitar playing, whether it's shredding or just playing with feel. There's a lot of technicality to that. So I guess it would be more accurate to say speed versus feel in this case. Some people go with speed over the top and that's their style, and some people go with feel over the top and that's their style, and there's nothing wrong with either of those things. But most people strike a balance between the two somewhere, and that becomes what their style is known for. So all those things play into what builds a person's unique individual style. Now the question is, how can you improve your own personal style? First of all, listen to a lot of music. Listen to many genres of music, even if it's something that isn't played on guitar and you hear it and you think, oh, that's really cool. Think about what melody you just liked, or think about what progression you're getting into. What was the scale? What was the sequence? You'll realize that every artist, no matter what instrument and even no matter what form of art, has their own style of moves. And if you're going to learn a song that you really like, but one that specifically challenges you. This is critically important because the only reason that you would ever see a song as a challenge is the fact that it includes a pattern that you don't know how to play yet. That's all it is. So once you've learned it, you just built up your vocabulary and probably your skill just to be able to play that song. For example, I've spent a lot of time listening to heavily lead-driven playing, which is not a bad thing at all, but I realized recently that for the amount of lead playing that I listened to and only focused on that aspect, actually my rhythm playing personally had suffered. And within the last couple of years, I've only really just fully come to appreciate crazy riffs and rhythm playing that is just mind-blowing and takes just as much talent to play and write that kind of a thing as would a crazy, impressive solo. So that's one way that I personally have recently and still currently decided to really work on building my style, is in riff writing and rhythm playing. But the biggest thing you can do to develop your own style is just simply to practice and play a lot. It just takes hours. Hours and hours per week, for weeks on end, for years on end. That's what it takes. Think about just the amount of new music that you would discover over the course of a few years, and whether or not you ever even decide to learn those songs, all that music that you've heard is somewhere in the back of your mind. And certain elements of that music will subconsciously come out and manifest themselves in certain key ways in your own playing. Like I said, most of the time it is completely subconscious. You don't have to think about doing it. It's like once you've heard a song, it's there, and if you enjoyed it and it stuck with you, you might, even if it's just one note to the next, you might play it in a certain way that just harkens back to a song that you loved that you heard a year ago and you might not have even thought about recently. And don't worry about developing your own style. It's not something that you can necessarily learn on paper. It's not something that you can force to happen quickly. It just takes time. If you continue to play guitar and you continue to practice regularly, your style will have to develop. Now let's say you don't even listen to any new music at all, and all you do is practice the same stuff for a long time. Now you will definitely get sick and tired of what you're hearing yourself play, and you will get bored with it, and what will happen is you will create new patterns and your own style that way. You'll start to apply inflections where you wouldn't have. You'll start to jump, intervals through a scale that you wouldn't have done before just because it's something new. You're not going to sit there and torture yourself listening to the same stuff over and over. You're going to naturally find ways to find new patterns. That's another big thing. So as long as you're continuing to play and practice, there is no reason to worry about finding your own style. All you have to do is practice. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please share it and subscribe to my channel for more guitar-related content. Thank you.